Hey guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video we'll be going through the Western Derby 58, I believe, between West Coast Eagles and Fremantle, in which the Weagles win again. We get to call them the Weagles for another week, as they're starting to turn it around. And Harley Reid, well, I got this is the biggest mistake of the year, alongside Tristan Cherry, but Tristan Cherry was just a bad miss, like that of Bont over missing out on Merritt over Bont, etc. That's another thing. There's sort of a couple of key learnings that I've made this year in AFL Fantasy, and so my ranking massively slid in round 6, and pretty much means that my season is effectively over for competing for anything really competitive. So I'm probably going to try and just make some wacky, moves and try and see if they work out. Rather than holding, and holding guys and trying to see if trying to almost play the normal way, because I want to be able to, see or just try something wild, because I don't want to sort of just be teetering out and ranked about 1,500. I would rather try stuff and fail massively, or try stuff and see if it just completely works out. So I may try some crazy stuff and just see if it works out after this week, because there's two pretty obvious trade-ins this week, which I can get to. But next week I may decide to just go for almost two of the sort of or go for something crazier. So anyway, that's sort of my thoughts at the moment. But before we get into this video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and let's get into the recap. So first off, Tim Kelly, a 108 from him. He was pretty big throughout the game, the second and third quarter. The Eagles were massively on top in the first, and then in the second quarter they really extended that lead. And then in the third quarter and fourth quarter, I'm pretty sure Freo won the last quarter or something. I think they kicked maybe 5 goals to 1, 5 goals to 2 in the last. It was something like that. But yeah, he just pretty much ran this game. A 108 from him, top scorer on the ground. Waterman, I think, kicked 5 again, and he kicked them pretty early from memory. 1 goal in the first, and then 1, 2, 3 goals in the second, and then he ended up kicking a goal in the last as well, and he also kicked a couple of behind, so he could have easily ended up with 6 or 7, and he's really starting to show that he's one of the better players in the West Coast side. If he can back it up again and go 6-5-5, then that would be pretty big for West Coast. But West Coast are turning this around, and it just shows that they were never, I don't think they were ever this bad. Or maybe they just held on. I think they did hold on to their premiership players a little bit longer than they probably should have. But that's a decision I think a lot of people would have almost logically made at that point. And I think the injuries made it look a lot worse than it actually was. But Waterman has been a massive improver this year. Duggan, 89. Not really fancy relevant at all, as we get into a string of a lot of fancy relevant players outside of outside of Yo and Reid, which we'll talk about. But Duggan, huge underscorer from what you thought he could do. We saw in the past last year that he could do 105 for a run of 6 or 7 games, I think it was. So I think in the new side, I think this is just a lot of what happens in fantasy, is that there are a lot of sides that just have 5 or 6 players that are sort of 90 scorers and not really fantasy relevant. And I think that's what the Eagles are becoming, much like the Swans were. I remember back in before Errol Goulden's 2023. In 2022, I don't even know if the Swans had a player go over 100 genuinely, because they were just... Luke Parker, I think, was almost the highest scorer at 96, 97. You had Chad Warner, you had... Callum Mills was injured, but he was usually the one that went up that sort of range. But they usually just had 90s and 95s, high 80s guys, or you did have Jake Lloyd, etc. But that was sort of the way that they've sort of played after they phased out or started to make Jake Lloyd's role spread out across the side with better kickers. Elliot Yeo, 88, a little bit down, but huge cash generation from him over the last little bit, and I'm just really happy to own him. He got the medal for an 88, and just shows that he can sort of punch it a little bit higher, I reckon. So I think he may not get to that D6 point, but he will be close enough that you can almost just hold him throughout the whole season with the way he's playing at the moment, because you know a big one's coming around the corner again. McGovern was pretty good. Harley Reid was absolutely ridiculous, and I think he pumped out like a 147 in Supercoach. We go here. I believe these numbers are right for Supercoach. A 147 in Supercoach, 13 contested possessions, which was only second to Nat 5's 15, I believe. 7 clearances, which was Nat 5 had a ridiculous 13 clearances. Wow, Nat 5 of old. So yeah, really, really happy to own him in Supercoach, but that was obviously my biggest mistake in Fantasy, and that is something that I'm going to stress for next year in the first early rounds is don't bother getting over. Don't even contemplate getting off these top-end rookies for sort of those mid prices that have one good game, because you didn't pick them for a reason, and go for rolls over scoring, because that is one big mistake that I made in the middle of a round, and it stuffed up pretty much my whole fantasy. Cripps, Barras, Darling, Jimby, Marek, Cole, Williams, Hoff, Brockman, Rotham, Hunt, Witherden, Petrocelli, Chesser, Williams, Long, and Sheep came off the bench, so he's off in the sub role, and he's just going to drop in cash now. Freo, Sarong 107. He did well to get to the 107 after a really big first quarter, and then some subpar quarters, and then a 30-point last to get to a 107. He's really sort of been up and down after that huge start, and now he's, I think, averaging like 114. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes down a little bit more. Then you have Clark 96, third highest score on a 96, just shows how evenly spread out this game was in terms of scoring. 21, 35, 12, and then also for 28, in the last. So an sort of tale of 2 quarters, basically, just huge in the even quarters, slow in the odds, and he basically is gonna hold price, or did hold price, I'm pretty sure. And so yeah, Clark's an interesting one. I don't think he's top 6 material. I think he's just going to fall short, but he's going to be in that sort of top 12, 13 defenders, which you can pretty much hold till one of the last rookies needs to be upgraded. Because I would almost be holding Harley Reid before and getting rid of Jordan Clark before getting rid of Clark. Darcy, Brayshaw, Young 88, sat on the pine for the last quarter with a potential injury. We find out tomorrow if that was just precautionary or if that is a natural injury. If it's natural injury, chaos. So yeah, that'll be an interesting one to watch. 582, he did all right. More of a Supercoach play than a fantasy play anymore, as he is only averaging like 70 in fantasy, whereas he's averaging like 87 or something in Supercoach. Just shows the split that Fife always has, I reckon. Pierce, Sharper, 74, really big comeback from him after a quiet first. It says 14, but it felt a lot more quiet than that. He didn't actually really get off of 0 until the 11th minute of the quarter, and then he also got a mark there to get up to 12 in the quarter, and then a 21, 18, 23, and got up to a 74. He's just one of the better, more reliable rookies. Wingers, they tend to score all right, and Sharp seems to be scoring 70 at least every week, so that's sort of almost his baseline. I think he had one bad, a 65 and maybe a 50 odd, but he also had that 100, was it? Because the 120 came in Supercoach, didn't it? So yeah, happy to own, and yeah, just keep on gaining in price. Hopefully Sharp, I'm pretty sure his break even starting to get to the point now where it's almost jump off time, but we'll wait and see on that one. Pierce, Sharp we said. Tracy, Ryan, 63, and this is exactly why you don't go for sort of top line guys at the moment yet, because now Ryan's averaging 105. He's slightly back in the order, I believe, or is he down to like a 60, down to like a 90? I don't know exactly what he's averaging, But yeah, he just did nothing in the second half, and 63 is really going to help the non-owners. Jackson, a 61, came in late and scored a goal here. As you can see, 12 points in the last sort of minute to really get that up, but just really, really poor as a forward option and not really fancy relevant. And I think it just shows to me that Freo cannot work with the dual rucks of Darcy and Jackson. I mean, it looks like Darcy had a really good game of a 94, but there's no versatility there, and Jackson just provides an extra midfielder. And the way that Freo play, I just don't know. I think the new way forward is this more mobile ruckman that Jackson provides rather than Darcy. Darcy is sort of eerily similar to Riley O'Brien and stuff like that. And you saw how the Adelaide midfield struggled. And I know that the Freo midfield has Sarong, Brayshaw, but if you have Young and Fife in that same midfield, alongside Sean Darcy, that's when you start to get battered, I reckon. So it's a weird one that I reckon it was a lot easier to not get battered in the midfield when you had Jackson, who was more mobile and able to help with the breaking lines and running through that we sort of talk about a lot with Adelaide. And I don't know if Darcy can provide that as much. And I didn't really like Darcy up forward, to be honest with you. He was a lot better in the ruck, even though I'm saying it's almost counterintuitive what I was saying. He just, if we see here, just a lot of hit out. I don't know what he ended up with, maybe 40 odd hit outs. Let's just check this. He ended up with 30 hit outs, 10 kicks, 3 handballs, 4 marks and 4 tackles. And then 3 free kicks, 1 free kick against, and 8 contested possessions, 4 clearances. So I mean, he was the third best clearance guy around there, outside of outside of Sarong and Fife. Just looking at this here, so he wasn't bad, but you just much rather the ball in Brayshaw, Young, Sarong's hands than Darcy. So that pretty much is the video there, as we've got no one here really to talk about, to be honest, from the Fremantle standpoint. James Aish, for anyone that jumped on him for some reason, Aish had a really good start to the year, but fallen off, I think, in the last couple games. And yeah, this really is going to put a damper on him, as he's going to massively drop in the next couple of weeks with probably a huge break even, I would expect now. That might be one of the highest break evens in the comp. Let's see, 722k with a 131 break even. He's going to get down into the 600ks again, as I don't expect him to go 130 against the Western Bulldogs. He could go 110, 100, but that would still get him close, if not on the 700 into the 600s. But that pretty much is the video there, and I guess I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.